Hey everybody, this is Sojan here, coming at you with a new tutorial today on how to do this teleportation effect that you see right here. So let's jump right into it. First off, change your default view to video editing view, and then import your movie clip so that we can edit it and cut it. In order to cut the video, select the clip you want to cut, drag the timeline until you're at the right place to cut the video, and hit K on the keyboard. Now we don't need this garbage, so let's delete this. And we also need to align the clips so that they start at the beginning of our timeline. We don't need audio either, so delete that too. While we're at it, let's remove the useless garbage at the end of the video, and cut on each side of where he moves so that we can manipulate the speed at which he moves by adding a speed control effect. In order to manipulate the speed of the clip with the speed effect, we have to change the multiply speed. Let's set this to 10, and then cut off all the garbage that it adds at the end. Now all that's left to do is to set your favorite movie export settings and export the video file to whatever file you like. Just make sure you adjust your timeline length to your clip length. Once that is finished rendering, head back to 3D view, clear rotations to transform on the camera, and delete all the rest. Hashtag bye bye Suzanne. Next, let's place the camera on the edge of the grid so it's easier to place our objects in the 3D scene. Alright, now we're ready to click N and go on the side panel to add a background image movie clip to our camera so that we can preview what we're doing. Disable camera clip and load in the movie we just rendered. Note that background images cannot be rendered by clicking F12 or in any final render, so don't worry about that. Next, we're going to add a plane, rotate it, and fit it over your character. Head over to edit mode, and extrude the vertices so that they cover the circumference of the character. In order to close this loop, select the two last vertices that remain, and click F, then select everything, and click F again in order to create a face. We will use this face to create a particle system. Since we also need a particle system when the person stops teleporting, click Shift D to duplicate the face, and drag it over to where the person stops moving. We can also jump into edit mode to make this new face better fit the position of the person. Now it's time to create particles for the particle system. Change layer, click Shift A to add an icosphere, and Shift D to duplicate it. Add new materials on each of the icospheres and select emission and a strength of about 5. I chose colors of red and blue because in general they composite together quite well. You can preview how the colors will look if you hit Shift Z to change to rendered view. Now select both icospheres by shift clicking and add them to a group by clicking Ctrl G. Alright, now that that's done, let's head back to the first layer, select the plane you want to work with, and add a particle system to it. Now in the particle settings, go down to Render, select Group rather than Halo, and in Dupli Group, select the group we have just created. You'll notice all the particles fall down. This is because we have to bring gravity down to 0 under field weights. Another problem now seems to occur as the particles drift to the right. This is because of perspective of the camera, and if we select the camera, we can go in camera settings and select orthographic rather than perspective. Then resize the orthographic scale in order to make your mask fit over the subject directly again. Now the particles are just boringly drifting towards us, so let's go crank up the randomness in the emission values. You can also add some Brownian motion to make the particle movement more interesting. While we're at it, let's also change the size and random size of the particles in order to make them more diverse. Although it is to be noted that you want to avoid bringing the random size all the way up, because then the smallest particles will be almost infinitesimally small. Everything going well so far? Alright, bring the dampening values of the particles up, choose a frame on which you want all of the particles to explode at once, which is just before he starts moving, and set the start and end values of the particle emissions to that frame number. Now, we want the warp effect to stop shortly after he moves, so we're going to set the particle lifetime to about 18 or 20 frames. And booyah, particle system completed. Now, particle systems can be quite finicky to deal with, so you might want to change all of these values and mess around with them until you get something satisfying and to your liking. Actually, scratch that. Should have to, not might. Now, select your other plane, shift-click on the plane with the current particle settings, click on that little black triangle thingy, and select Copy to All Selected. This will effectively copy the particle settings that we have on this mask to the other mask. Now, if we change any particle settings on any of the two masks, this is going to change the particle settings on the other mask. That's quite annoying. So, let's click the little 2, and that will effectively unlink the two particle systems from each other. That will permit us to make a new start and end value for the second mask. Now, if we head into the rendered preview, you'll see that the plane for the mask is actually rendered. We don't want that, so in the particle settings, scroll down to Render, and uncheck Emitter. This will make the plane invisible. Okay, the particle system is complete. Let's render it. Remove the clip from the video editor, and in the render settings, select an encoding that supports RGBA. This will permit us to render the alpha channel of the movie. Of course, we first need an alpha channel, so make sure film transparent is enabled. Also, since this is emission, you don't really need many samples, so you can bring that down to something like 10 and render really fast. Once that's rendered, let's jump right into compositing. Open the compositor, import your 2 movie clips with movie clip nodes, add a viewer node, enable backdrop, and add a scale node so that we can see everything that's going on. Bring this down to like 0.8. Now, in order to mix our 2 movie clips, we need to use an alpha over node. Plug the 2 color values into the alpha over node. If it doesn't seem to work and you're getting only one of the images, it's probably just because you have to flip the inputs. Now, let's add a glare node between the particle movie clip and the alpha over node. Set the threshold to 0 and change from streaks to simple star. Next, let's add a blur node just before this node and set the X and Y values to about 10. I personally like to add another glare node after these 2 nodes and set it to fog glow and lower the threshold. According to me, this helps mix the 2 movie clips together more seamlessly. Alright, we're approaching the end. Let's add a displace node right after the alpha node and plug the color output from the second glare node into the vector of this displace node. Now set the X and Y values of the displace node to whatever you think suits the effect best, remove the scale node, and render the final results. Alright, so that was it. I hope you were able to follow along. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them as I can. Make sure also to check the links that I have in my description. I have some links to some textures that are absolutely CC0. You could technically take them and sell them again if you wanted, so they're great to get you started if you need some textures to slap on some models just to practice with your texturing or whatnot. And I hope you enjoy. Next time.